Okay, hello, Red Nail Energy listeners. This is Mikhail, and I'm really excited for the guest that I have with us today. Today's guest is bringing main character energy to our love lives, Lauren from Lauren Likes It Like That. Known for her no BS approach to relationships, dating, and self-worth, Lauren has a way of making us rethink the way we show up in love. She's got the hot takes, the hard truths, and the kind of advice that makes you want to delete half your text thread and actually start listening to your intuition instead. Whether you're navigating a situationship, calling in your dream partner, or just trying to date without losing your mind, raise your hand if you're there. Lauren's insights will have you reevaluating what you tolerate and how you attract. Get ready to shift your energy and start dating like you mean it. So, welcome, Lauren.
Thank you, Mikhail. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And happy Friday slash Venus Day. Could this be more perfect that we're talking about all things love, self-love, calling in love? And it's just like, again, the universe always is conspiring for our greatest good, even when it feels like she's not. So,
Yes, such a feminine Venusian beauty, love, art, all the things today.
yes.
So it's divinely timed. Here we are.
Yes. And we just had a really big kind of like Venus entering the underworld. I don't know if anyone listening feels this, but the last 2 to 3 weeks have been very like alchemistic for me. I feel like I've had a lot of stuff just that was right on my plate in front of me, totally stripped away so fast that like it made my head spin. And now that I'm sort of reascending, I'm able to look back and be like, whoa, that was exactly what needed to happen. And so if you're
Mhm.
listening and you're feeling that too, you are not alone.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, amazing. Well, I would love to just kind of dive in. You have such a clear and empowered and very direct approach, I feel like, to love, dating, self-love, especially kind of that main character energy. How did you get here?
Yes. Heartbreak. How do we come back to ourselves? It's through heartbreak.
Yep.
I was completely heartbroken at 30 years old, thinking that I'd be married with kids on the way. And, I'd already gotten out of a long-term relationship, started dating again, and then hit rock bottom. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
why me? Like, why is this consistently happening to me when I did all the right things that everyone told me to do? And the thing is that it led me directly back to myself. And that's when I started to really look within rather than just trying to find the man who's going to be like the missing puzzle piece on the
Right.
outside. As I was like, wow, I actually see now that I'm the one creating my reality.
Yeah.
I like to say this has gotten softer over time, but I'm like, I'm the problem and I'm the solution. And so I'm like, and
Yes.
it's just really an awareness game. And when I really started to see that everything is energy, including myself, the awareness then had to be like, okay, who am I being? What am I believing? What are the things that I am doing, based on those beliefs? And what do I believe is possible for me? And so I really started to look within, okay, if I attract who I'm being, I got to start looking at who I'm being.
100%. Something that you've said that really resonated with me is that manifesting isn't about getting what you want. Like we always put the emphasis on the partner, the job, the house, the kids, whatever it may be. And you break it down in a sense that it's like, no, 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 it's about becoming the energy that has that. And so I'd love for
Yes.
you to just kind of like unpack that a little bit and help people that maybe have been placing so much importance on the outcome, kind of how we
Hmm.
can actually start within and just ascend to someone that already has those things.
Yeah. So when we are outcome based, we think that we want that thing because it's going to make us feel better. But what we actually need to realize is that we have the power to make ourselves feel better. So the very thing that we want, the man, the kids, the relationship, the house, the money, all of that, we want it because it has a certain frequency that we want to feel more love, more secure, more safety, more adventure and play and even creating a family, like all of that has a frequency of feeling. And when we can start to embody that now, feel it now, rather than feeling lack of it,
Mhm.
that's when we actually magnetize it to us. We match the frequency. And so it's actually this like, it's becoming through unbecoming. So you become the frequency through stripping away all of the things that keep us from thinking that we can have the man or the kids and the lifestyle and all the things that we want. We become more love by accepting ourselves as who we are now and also deciding what's possible for us. So we really start to write our own rules, write our own beliefs. And this comes down to embodying your innate frequency of love. We came here as innocent love, joy, play. I mean, look at children.
Mhm.
That's what we're getting back to, is that innocent, childlike state rather than, oh no, I can't talk to that man because, he's too good looking for me or all these things. It's like, what would a child do? Wouldn't a child just connect
Right.
if the child were curious? And
Yeah.
so it's about like connecting with the environment around you and also not seeing as anything above you, pedestalizing it or thinking that it's so far away. And
Mhm.
it's recognizing, how do I feel now? And can I find a sense of peace and relief and gratitude and then adventure and play and curiosity and like really turning on that energy of like eagerness for like, I'm so excited for the very thing that I desire, that I'm magnetizing it into my life based on who I'm being.
Yes. Oh, that is such an important point and something that is hard to do because it does require us to embody a different frequency. Whereas it's so easy just to put all the importance on those outcomes, all those external things, but that's wasted energy. We're just like throwing
Mm.
everything to something kind of that's in outer space. And I would love to go backward to where that heartbreak was. And for anyone listening that's maybe in a transition, experiencing heartbreak in that kind of grief state, how is that something that we can alchemize and use for our best good? And why do you say that heartbreak means that we're actually closer to calling in our dream
Ooh.
partner or dream life?
Yes, 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 yes. Because we feel the heartbreak because there's something within us that we are holding on to that is not true. That is like a limiting belief. And so I did have this heartbreak at 30 that really woke me up. And then I even had a heartbreak last year, at the beginning of 2024. And I had this intense form of grief. And it wasn't even like a super serious relationship. It wasn't like I was with this man for years, right? But it brought up within me what needed to be cleared, a story that I was holding on to that consciously in my mind, I was like, no, I'm not choosing a man, to be stable and secure. Like I've got that. But when I left this relationship, then because I knew what I wanted. I wanted to follow my desire for like family and kids, and that just wasn't something that was aligned for him. And we needed to date to figure out like, are we aligned here or are we not?
Mhm.
And then I left, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I was so latching on to his sense of stability and security. And my life was, everyone's life is divinely designed for their own release of like their triggers and the things that they're holding on to, because I live in a foreign country. And so being with that man made me feel like I belonged and like I was safe and secure. And so because of my environment, and then also it helped bring up this belief that I saw that my mom held on to, of being in a relationship that wasn't aligned only because she was there for the safety and the security. And so when we give ourselves this opportunity to clear out what is no longer meant for us, that belief, that story that was no longer meant for me, that I got to choose, that I am always safe and secure on my own. And now I even have a belief that, like, because I'm the source of love, I'm also my own source of money. Like, if I need money, it's going to come from me. Although we think that, like, it's coming from the outside being given to us, we are the ones that are creating that match in frequency. And so I was diving deeper into that on my own. And when we create this clearing, it's taking this, alchemizing the grief, the sadness, the anger, the embarrassment, whatever comes up, and being like, no, I'm no longer choosing that. I'm choosing the new story. And we alchemize it into a higher frequency. And that's what makes a woman magnetic. So that's going to put you more in alignment with the man that is meant for you. But if we stay, I feel like it's alchemization takes like two, which is just changing frequencies from low to high vibration. There's two steps. It's like, one, recognizing the emotion and the beliefs, the thoughts, the stories underneath it that are creating that emotion. And then step two, which I feel like is missing a lot because we've been told to feel it to heal it. So I feel like we're feeling it, but then to fully heal it is to alchemize it and to actually choose the new belief.
Mhm.
Choose, what am I going to do now? What am I going to believe? Who am I becoming thanks to this that has come up for me? And that's the empowered piece. I call it like empowered emotions. This is one of my like key things that I work with women on, is because we need to take that empowered step so we can be more magnetic, more in alignment with who is meant for us.
Yes, I think that we often have to experience the same story so many times and even often go, I'm not doing that again. And then doing
Hmm.
it again. And then maybe
Hmm.
something finally does come in that is like that greatest mirror moment, that absolute heartbreak where everything really is uprooted. And as you said, it doesn't have to be a 15-year marriage. It can be a 3-week situationship. It can be something
Totally.
that is so intense and you get so caught up in these old stories and old patterns that when it's uprooted, you have no choice but to face it. And sometimes it is those shorter ones because things happen so fast that we don't like miss the point the way that we might in those longer relationships. But my
Yeah.
question kind of next is like when that old story is finally brought to the forefront and we really do see it and we're in the feel it and not quite the
Hmm.
heal it stage yet, how do we refrain from all of the shame and the like, I could have done this differently. Now I have more information and the like rear view mirror moments and
Hmm.
alchemize it to that powerful, empowered, higher vibration state?
Yeah, it's to own it. Own it. And it's like through there's embodiment practices. It's I do emotional release practices with women because what we don't own owns us. And so it's seeing that yes, I felt this grief and this shame and or these old stories, but they weren't actually mine. Like I learned them either from society, from my parents, from school, from wherever, from seeing my friends do it. And oh, that's maybe not actually mine to own. What is it that I actually want to believe?
Mhm.
So we can take our strip away this conditioning and then we get to choose, okay, I'm an adult now. I can take care of myself now. I lead myself. What is it that I'm going to believe going forward and who's the woman that I want to be?
Yeah, I love that. I think it can be as simple as that. And we get so stuck in
Mhm.
like the rabbit holes and the shame spirals or the rumination. And it's so
Mhm.
disempowering. And it can be as
Yeah.
simple as a mental shift or a moment or an emotional release practice or something that brings it to a head where you just say like it is what it is and this is what it
Mhm.
has been and I'm going to own this
Yeah.
story and it does no good to think like shoulda coulda woulda but like how
Mhm.
am I going to practice this now moving forward, how am I going to embody this different energy? And what's really remarkable is not only is that felt by self, like you can wake up in the morning the night after making that decision and feel different the next day, but it is felt by everyone around you. And I think that's
Mhm.
what's so amazing about it is it's always a continuous practice, but the amount of time like people will say just like something's different or like what's going on, and then because I'm imperfect, I might slump back down to a different place and keep doing this ebb and flow. But I think that
Mhm.
all that proves to me is how powerful energy really is and how much we are constantly co-creating. And if we can get back to that playful state, we can enjoy the process, even when it brings us those mirror moments, the heartbreak, the rug being ripped out from beneath us. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
it's so fun to get to that place of curiosity versus like fear and resistance and shame.
Exactly. It can, just like you said, it can be as quick as an identity or like a thought shift, like a reframe. It and for women, it depends on where we're at in our cycle. So some
Mhm,
days that might be the easy place just to go. It's like, nope, I'm not thinking that anymore.
mhm.
Other days, maybe when we're closer to our cycle coming, it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot get out of this like state of, feeling all this pain and this grief. And it's like, okay, let me be with this. Like, let me go into this. Like, where is this in my body? And that's that longer embodiment practice. And so we just have to be gentle with ourselves and recognize that it's going to be different day to day. And also, I think about energy of like, it when it shifts, we are shifting the scale. It's like we're constantly getting to this more and more dominant vibration because it's never to be perfect.
Mhm.
But it's that, oh, yeah, I had that trigger come up last year and it might still come up in my relationship, but I handle it differently now. Maybe it's easier for me to shift, just on the daily or just, in a moment's, thought. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to act out that way anymore. And so they're always going to come up. It's never about being perfect. It's just always being aware of our response and how we're going to handle our emotions.
Yeah, and I think that with the cyclical nature of our hormones and how important it is, I
Mhm.
find myself constantly saying no feeling is final, especially when I'm in those moments of kind of like, what's the point of any of this luteal phase gremlin? But I also think I'm starting to reframe that and adding a second part of no feeling is final. And this is exactly what I'm meant to be feeling right now. Because in the past, I've sort of just distracted, like, no feeling is
Mhm.
final. And when I'm in when I'm in my ovulatory phase and I'm blasting like the man hating music and I'm on top of the world and I really release this situation or whatever, it doesn't
Hmm.
allow then for those cycles and parts of our cycle where we really drop in and we feel it. And
Right.
that's sometimes where like the most ooey gooey goodness happens that is then alchemized maybe in like the next phase that we get into. And so for anyone listening that is feeling shame or um, what's the point of any of this right now, I think that the point is that like this is the point. Being all where you are is the point, and then having hope and grace and freedom in the realization that no feeling is final and you will get to that next stage or that next feeling a lot quicker than you think, especially if you let yourself feel what you're feeling right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
So once
Like,
you got to that place of like, okay, I am bringing all these old stories up, I'm ready to embody a new story. Then
mhm.
what? Like, what were some of the shifts that you made? What were some of the changes you made that helped you actually step into and embody this new story?
Yeah. So it's getting clear on what you want and like what you desire. So I was like, when I started changing, I literally took a year off of dating and then I came back to dating. And because I took this whole year, which it doesn't necessarily take a year, but depends on like where you are at in your self-development journey and all of that. But then I was like, I love this place of like where you just kind of give up because that ends the resistance of needing a man in your life, trying to be married by a certain age, trying to get the outcome like we had just talked about.
Mhm.
And so then I came back into dating and I was like, this is just going to be fun for me because I chose to love my life without a man. And that I was like, the man is just going to be the cherry on top. So I'm the one doing the choosing. So I'm going to decide what is it that I want, and I'm just not going to be available for less than that. So I got super clear on my desire. At that time, I also was like, you know what? I'm just going to decide that I'm going to go to Mexico. But there were so many thoughts and like ego beliefs that could have been like, there's fewer options there. Like, what if it doesn't work out? And I was just like, I'm ready for the unknown. And I truly decided that if I feel good, wherever I feel good is where I'm going to be my most magnetic, and that's where I get to meet a man. I got rid of the dating apps. I was like, I'm no longer on a dating app. I believe in my ability to meet a man in person.
Mhm.
And in order for that to happen, I also then had to be open to connection.
Mhm.
And a big thing about embodying your feminine energy is really being present with your environment because you're taking in the experience of the cafe that you're in or the walk that you're on outside. And are you smiling at people just because it's a place of overflow and you're not trying to have a conversation with them, or you're not, sometimes I'll encounter some women who are afraid to make eye contact with men. And I'm like, make that connection just because, like, it feels good for you. It's just for you to feel good, not to get an outcome.
Mhm.
And so really embodying this, like, if I feel good, then I'm my most magnetic, I'm my most empowered, and whatever's meant for me will find me.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, the desire, the feeling good, and then the final piece, which maybe a lot of women maybe don't want to hear, is that we have to be respecting men and really seeing men in their highest, knowing that they are not perfect, but that we can hold compassion for their imperfections. And like, I'm sorry, but you cannot say that there's no good men out there and expect to meet a good man.
Right.
You have to reflect, you have to use your beliefs to reflect what you want. So I just started to meet men, and I used to use every man, whether it was a cashier or just a random person on the street or just a guy friend, as evidence of, oh, what are the qualities that they are exhibiting that I desire?
Mhm.
And also maybe seeing some of the ones that I don't desire, but just holding compassion that they are on their own journey too. Just like I had a journey to deal with my own issues and emotional baggage and all of that, that they're on their own journey and they will learn in their own time.
Mhm.
And so that's a big piece of it is, thinking of men in the way in which the man that you desire to receive, like you've got to think that like he's out there and start to hold that in mind for men.
Yeah, we condition ourselves as a protective mechanism to
Hmm.
disempower and tear down men. And it could even be a man that we have so much love for, but in a moment of rejection, or maybe they're not behaving in the way that we want, the whole group chat goes to like, screw him, you deserve better, let him burn, all men suck, men are
Hmm.
trash. And I think that
Yeah.
I've really gotten clear on kind of like the hygiene of my thoughts and what I'm saying as well, because it can be fun and playful and silly to be like, women are the superior species and whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
I think that it's what we focus on, we find. And so the more that we
Yeah.
say those things, the more we put that energetically out there, the more that we say, trust no one, all the good men are dead or gone, whatever. It's like, that's kind of what we're going to continue to find in that pattern.
Hmm.
And on the flip side of that, something that was really interesting to me, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Queen's Code or that there's a
Yeah.
book, that teaching. Um, I struggled a little bit with like the writing of actually reading the book, and some of it was like a little bit hard for me to like super get into, but the teachings themselves, I couldn't deny, were like every woman's experience in life kind of perfectly played out. And I'm like, if this is so dead on, there's got to be some truth to it. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me is that we cannot treat men as misbehaving women. We can't
Yeah.
treat them as like, we are the measuring stick. This is what I would have done, so he should have done the same thing. And there's so many
Hmm.
differences biologically, chemically, brain activity wise between men and women that like, if we look at them and we say like, well, I would have never forgotten that it's his hamster's third birthday, he shouldn't forget that it's my hamster's third birthday because I mentioned that once when we were driving, when his mind can't even
Hmm.
like take in this information. I feel like for
Hmm.
me it was like this huge release of, stop using myself and what I would do or should do as the measuring stick for the men of the world, because there are beautiful differences between us, and until we're
Hmm.
ready to celebrate those, all we're going to be surrounded with are misbehaving women dressed up like a man.
Yes.
Like if that's how we're looking at
Yes.
it. So,
Yes. And the more that we value our own feminine energy with, the cycles of our womb, honoring that, like, yeah, I'm not going to be the same day to day. The more that we honor that, we move a different way in the world, that we are more of this flow and like we have the curves to our body and that we don't need to compete with men, but that when we value ourselves, we can then value the differences that men offer because they are very complementary to our energy. And of course, we all have both masculine and feminine energy, but women tend to be more dominant and feel good, which is what we want. We want to feel good, in that femininity, more relaxed, expressing our desire, seeing, okay, is the man then able to step up and take action and act on that desire to help us achieve it? And the thing is when we let go of that measuring stick, like you're saying, it's like we have these mental constructs, this ego that wants to keep us safe and it should be done this way. Like when my boyfriend cooks, I'm like, oh my God, I would do it so differently. And like,
mhm,
in it, why is everything a mess and all of it? And I've had to start just letting go because I'm like, you know what? I just appreciate the fact that he's willing to cook for us.
mhm.
And I'm like, that's it. And if there's a mess and it's something different, then it's like, I've just had to let that go. And that's the beauty again of the mirror of men. It helps us let go of our own ego and just relax and change the definition of like what's going to feel good or what the standard has to be.
Yeah, it's so true. And backing up, I love what you said about how you get excited when, especially a woman, gets to the place of like giving up. Because I think often the kind of like prototype of that woman is super successful in every area they have control over. They're able to just really achieve high performing, all of these things. And giving up is actually maybe for the first time in her life surrendering and releasing to receive. And I think that's the
Yes.
ticket. And that's admittedly my biggest struggle, is that what happens is I get this blueprint figured out. I recognize what the old story was. I get into this new situation in anything, in any aspect of my life. And then the performance turns on and I am achieving, achieving, achieving. And especially in dating and relationships, and if we're talking about a male female dynamic, in order to be in your feminine energy, you have to receive. And I just think that it's like that's the golden ticket. And so sometimes that giving up is like the most exciting place to start from, because maybe you're finally ready to receive.
Exactly. Yeah, because you can't receive when there's that resistance of like, I'm trying to do this or I've got to, perform and do all these things that he wants me to be. And it's like, I actually tell my clients to annoyingly be more of themselves. Like, because if you're going to push someone away from that, that's a good thing. And
Yep.
so I'm like, double text that man, not in like an anxious way,
Mhm.
but like, telling him like this is what happened in my day, I'm excited about this. Or like sometimes like if I'm out doing something, like I would do this at the beginning with my boyfriend and like I'm going to send a picture of the sunset, like where I am or like what I'm up to, and without expectation for him to reciprocate in some way. Not for me to be like, oh, well, he didn't text me until 3 hours later. Well, he might have been doing something, but I was just sharing from a place of overflow, from a place of like, I've got more to give and my energy is a gift. And like, I'm not expecting anything in return, which is like this unconditional love, unconditional overflow. And men actually like really love that kind of like energy when he can see that you don't need him to make you happy, that you're doing it on your own. He's like, damn, like I want what she's on. Like I want some of that.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good distinguisher is pausing, maybe if your pattern is to almost like overshare or over connect in a way, pausing
Mm-hmm.
and asking yourself, am I sending this because I'm trying to seek a specific outcome and I'm wanting to like, control the connection in a way? Or
Mm-hmm.
am I sending this from a place of abundance and overflow where it doesn't really matter if this man or
Right.
any of these other people I'm talking to in my life respond,
Yeah.
or I'm not seeking a certain reaction? Then, like,
Mm-hmm.
that is another energetic that can be felt. When you're sitting
Mm-hmm.
there, like, hi, hello, what are you doing? This is what I'm doing. What are you doing? Like that, without
Yeah.
even saying I'm trying to control the connection, that can be so incredibly felt. And that is felt in friendships, in other situations as well. Again, it's just energetics at play. But I think that
Yeah.
being more of yourself, I mean, it's like the whole how to lose a guy in 10 days. You see this person fall in love with almost the most extreme essence of a woman who's actually trying to get him to leave her at the exact same time. But I think that if
Mm-hmm.
more of us could just embody who we are and our truest, most authentic place rather than trying to be what we think we should be, there would also be a lot less
Yeah.
of the regret and the heartbreak of like, oh my gosh, I was just like trying to play a part. I was trying to be this role that TikTok told me to be. I was trying to like be the black cat by like following these lines of these things, which I can understand where that premise comes from. But all of the women in the comment sections that are like, I'm exhausted, this just feels like playing games. That's not how I am or who I am. I resonate so deeply with, because every person you meet is going to tell you like this is the blueprint for how to get the guy. And it's like, what if you
Mm-hmm.
just be yourself and that attracts the right person? Like, what a beautiful place to create from.
And that's it, because we are only attracting who we are. Like we are literally creating our reality and projecting it outward. And
Mhm.
like you said, like the way that we know the difference between am I controlling, the outcome, or is this coming from a place of overflow is like, how do you feel when you're sending the message or taking a certain action? Is it, I'm anxious, I need answers, like, where is he? Or is it like, oh my gosh, I want to share this. Like, I would send this picture to a good friend, or I would, I just want to be silly and I want to be playful. And the best thing is that when we show up in that energy of like playfulness and sharing and curiosity, then we can see truly how does a man respond to me being authentic? How does he respond to my feminine energy? Is he dismissive or is he playful back? And it's like that's where we want to be evaluating him from our most authentic expression. And we see, okay, who is he? Does he show up in a way that I enjoy? Is he available for the things that I want?
Yeah. And often when we look at the areas of our life that are really in flow, come really naturally and easily, maybe it's professionally, maybe it's your friendships, like you don't overthink those interactions. You are unapologetically yourself. You have respect for that other person and you have trust that they're going to respond when they can. And it's not a personal attack if it takes a couple hours. But I think what's so
Mhm.
interesting is we stray so far from ourselves in these interactions that are a little more difficult to call in. So maybe a romantic connection. So then
Mhm.
instead of dropping in and feeling into what would feel good to say back, we ask the group chat, we ask chat gpt, we ask TikTok, we go to all of these places, and then we wonder after we send that message why it feels so disconnected and inauthentic, and why when we get the response that we get, it doesn't feel good because like we're not
Right.
even putting ourselves forward. If we're listening to what some like here's how to get the man texts, whatever, and that's what we're sending, like that's not who we are. And that's why it feels so gross to like be in
Mhm.
those
Yeah.
situations, and why we're even moving further from ourselves and from the feeling we have with our friends, our family, our jobs, our hobbies, our passions that just like flow really easily, and we don't ever overthink our response. We would never screenshot and send to someone like, what do I say back? Because we know intuitively, we know what to say.
Mhm. Yeah. And that is this when we're looking outside of ourselves, this is my least favorite dating advice is like say these things for him to be obsessed with you, the black cat energy. I'm not even really sure like what that is, but I've seen it out there because don't follow anybody's like strategy. The things that bring you back to yourself are the people who are talking about self concept, law of attraction, energy. Like those are guiding you back to yourself because the thing is that we want to get out of our mind from like say this, do this, like that's someone else's whatever they think is going to work. But you want to be connected to your body, which is your
Right.
feminine energy. Connect to that first. Connect to, how does this feel? What feels good for me to say back? Not, oh, I've got to play the black cat, role. And so I'm not going to respond for however long, or I'm going to keep it short or whatever.
Right.
Um, that's playing the game and that's playing, manipulation and not really allowing someone to know the true you. So you really just want to be looking at like, how do I feel? How would I respond? I'm still going to be safe and okay, even if this person doesn't, respond in kind. And I'm going to move on from there because it's realigning me. It's all about that perspective of like, it's realigning me to the next man, more of what is meant for me.
Absolutely. And there's a fine line between some of the theories that are just about embodying feminine energy and then maybe blurring that line with like, here's the blueprint and here's exactly what to do to kind of like make him obsessed with you or whatever. And that line is where you do go from like authentic self to inauthentic self.
Hmm.
And yet, there are patterns, there are repeated themes and old stories that maybe when they surface, we realize this hasn't been working. And what I love to tell people, and what has been a huge shift for me, is we talk about like decentering dating or like not focusing so much on it. Well, when you trend a little bit more anxious attached, focusing on not focusing on something does not work. Like just sitting there being like, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not focusing on it, I don't care, that is
Hmm.
not going to work. And so instead, it's decide what you're going to focus on. And it's like all the things that bring you joy, putting yourself on that center stage, really watering
Hmm.
the relationships in your life, almost
Yeah.
having like all of these things are higher priority than dating. And then this like person that I barely know, even though all my old attachments are telling me,
Hmm.
put this at the top of the list, I'm going to actively water my plants, bathe my dog, go watch, the blades of grass
Hmm.
grow, do these things that I'm going to put at a higher importance. And then when my energy is going there, I'm naturally not going to put 100% of my energy to this place that maybe was like taking up so much real estate in my brain for so long.
Exactly. If we
Yeah.
focus too much on the man, we're actually like, if we're focused on wanting the man, we're focusing on lack
Hmm.
because we're focusing on the fact that he's not there and that the idea that if he were here, I would feel better.
Hmm.
If you're going to focus on the man, focus on being Delulu, like focus on the positive aspects, the positive expectation. I used to walk around with this mantra, men love me, protect me, and provide for me. And then anytime I would see a man walk in the coffee shop, I would just smile to myself and kind of like feel it in my heart of like, men love me, protect me, and provide for me. Like, why not? Like,
Hmm.
feed yourself the good Delulu
Hmm.
so that you can rewire, like, okay, if I'm going to think about a man, I'm thinking about something very positive. Not when is he coming? Where is he? Oh, that's focusing on the lack, and you're going to get more lack. But when
Hmm.
we focus on the positive expectation, or we completely take our attention away and put it on the things that actually do feel good to us in our life, like you're saying, we are actually in that way matching the very vibration of the relationship that we want.
Right.
Thus,
Yeah.
you're still being magnetic, even if you're not thinking about the man. So, like, you still are manifesting just by who you are being. And if you focus on the things that you love, guess what? You're going to get more love in your life.
Yes. And what a pressure to put on somebody that you very well may not even know to say, I would feel better if he was just here. I would feel better if I was in a relationship. I could be happy if just blank. Automatically, that person could be the right person for your life, comes into your life, and you're like, oh, thank goodness, now I can be happy. Again, a major energy that can be felt of like, holy cow, I barely know you. We're on date one. And you're like, thank goodness, like now I can finally just be happy and be free. Whereas
Mhm.
again, if you step into every situation and you're like, gosh, I'm so happy and I am so excited to get to know you. My life is so fulfilled and I can't wait to explore this connection. That is
Yeah.
such a different dance versus like, I can't be happy until blank and all of the pressure that is put on that thing,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
we're just barely exploring.
Yeah. And that used to be me all through my 20s.
Yeah.
always evaluating, okay, is this going to be the man that I'm going to marry and have kids with? And now, even though I'm in a relationship, I am very much like, if he were to break up with me next week, if it were to end tomorrow, next week, whenever, I'm going to be okay because I'm going to attract another man. And thanks
Yeah.
to this relationship, it's gotten me closer to the next man, if there is one, because we're always
Yes.
growing.
Always growing. If not this, it's because it's something better. And like
Yeah.
I've said that till I was blue in the face. I've reminded friends of that and watched their lives prove that to be true. And yet, in my own life, there are those moments where it feels like relearning that same lesson again and having that initial grasping for a second and then finally settling into like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. Like, if it wasn't that, which was amazing, cannot wait to see what's around the corner, cannot wait to see
Yeah.
what's brought in. And when we start to be playful and curious again with like, what is going to fill this like seeming void, again, not coming from a place of
Mhm.
lack, but when space is created in our life, new things can come through, new things can come in. Like sometimes the biggest grief and the biggest loss we've ever felt becomes the exact space that was needed for the most beautiful thing to come through that never would have had that space
Mhm.
not first been created.
Exactly. And the final thing I kind of want to say on all of what we've been talking about, you know, feeling good when the man comes, it's like that control, like we're allowing the man to control how we feel at that point or anything outside of you. If you're waiting until I'm going to feel good when, that thing has control over you. That man, the relationship that you desire has control over you. And when we see that, wait a second, I'm the one that controls how I feel. What if I just knew that at any time, this week, any day that I could run into the man that is meant for me or that I'm always being guided. And from that place, we can relax and have some relief and actually enjoy our present moment life rather than needing to control when is the man going to come in.
Yeah. And some of that attempt to control and wield calls such a low frequency, like desperate energy in. And so we
Mhm.
may be able to wield the thing we thought we wanted. And then we realize, like, this is not it. This is not it
Yeah.
at all. And I just exhausted myself to get this thing or get to this place. And again, that ability to release and trust and just be playful and curious about what's going to come through automatically sets us at such a different tone and place for everywhere we visit. And kind of to your point of like, men are protecting and providing for me, and like the delusion of this is going to be the best day ever. Like, I can't wait to see
Mhm.
what comes through. I can't wait to see what surprises the universe has in store is feeding the right delusion because
Yeah.
both of the like this is the worst day ever and this is the best day ever, the day hasn't really happened yet. So like which one are you going to focus on and like which one are you going to play with and create
Mhm.
from, because that's really all that we're doing all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So good. So let's shift a little bit into kind of the magnetism that you've spoken about.
Yeah.
Obviously embodying kind of that inner world is step one. What are some of the other ways that we can kind of step into our feminine energy and then in turn become more magnetic with the world?
Yeah. So yeah, we talked a lot about like thoughts and beliefs and like believing in that delulu because that makes you feel good. And the thing is that feeling good is always your job and that's always going to make you more magnetic. And so again, it's like adopting this childlike play, curiosity, pleasure. Pleasure is literally the most feminine thing because we often think about, oh, pleasure is just sexual pleasure. No, it's not. It's literally enjoying life. And that creates pleasure, joy, that creates a state of receiving. That's literally where the universe provides to us like the nudges of like, oh, I should do this today, or oh, I should call so and so. And then it automatically will guide you to where you are meant to go. And also, more of our feminine energy is embracing our desire. What is it that I really desire? Even though everyone told me growing up that I should be married with kids on the way and have a job and all these things like in a certain way, that then I was like, wait a second, I'm going to rewrite the rules. Like when I was single at 30, all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, what if I truly believed that I could meet a man and be married and happily, on my way in 6 months? Like,
Mhm.
do I trust myself enough? And that's what feminine energy is doing, is really getting us back to trusting ourselves, trusting how we feel in our body, because embodying your emotions, yet again, a very feminine thing, like owning your emotions and being with them and really looking at what is this telling me? That is our guidance system. So that's more of embracing your femininity, is not suppressing your emotions, but allowing yourself to own them and then alchemize them into, okay, what am I going to do now? What is the belief that I have now that I'm aware of this emotion? And then um yeah, the femininity of just like of the connection and being open and free flowing and not like masculine energy is very linear, is very like, yoga and working out, and which is great. Like that feels good, for certain points of our cycle and things like that. But then how much are you non-linear moving and allowing yourself to just like dance around and just be silly? And that's another way to really embody your feminine energy. Like if you're in a cafe or you're in somewhere that has a little bit of music, like are you kind of just moving around for fun just because it feels good, not because you need someone to look at you or
Right.
anything like that? And you probably know this from I feel like the Queen's Code talks about this. It's like when you are truly feel at home in your body, that is so attractive to men, especially because when they see a woman who can move kind of like non-linearly and be like curvy and flowy and all the things and own that, there's something in men that they're wired because they see things so logically and linearly that it's like fun to see this like flow and kind of like
Yeah.
chaotic creature,
Hmm.
and it feels good for us. And so for feminine beings, it's really to feel good first. It's not to get from the outside. It's truly, can I prioritize myself enough to do what I want to do because it feels good? And from that place, all of what I want comes to me.
Yes. And what would it feel like to pause, maybe, especially I know a lot of really high achieving women, myself included, that are like very rigid on things, listening.
Hmm.
We have these routines, we have these things we follow. We're so disciplined. It's so much like maybe to the minute, our life is just
Hmm.
planned out. And so
Hmm.
recognizing that part of what you said about it's not about doing, it's about
Hmm.
undoing, is maybe
Hmm.
taking inventory of some of those things that we do every single day and ask ourselves, like, is there even space for feminine energy to be here? If I'm so rigid and everything is so methodical and figured out, do I have space to kind of be playful, to move, to flow? And also recognizing that it can be integrated and kind of like injected into all aspects of our day. So it might be not scrolling while we're drinking our coffee or our matcha in the morning, but just sitting with music on and kind of feeling it and letting it, as silly as it sounds, get us up on our feet for 1 minute and just like close our eyes and kind of flow and kind of move. And for me, what's really remarkable is that's often then when the most intuitive kind of pings and thoughts and ideas and creativity comes in. And it can be from a 1 minute movement in my kitchen versus I sit down for an hour and try to like brainstorm and mastermind. And guess what? Nothing
Hmm.
comes through because I'm in this really
Yes,
rigid, boxed in setting. And so I
totally.
think like it's so important to undo, to create space for, and then trust ourselves to feel and to know and to like maybe just ask what would feel good right now. And if you don't
Yeah.
know, best place to start. If the answer is like, I'm not sure, well, then you can get curious and go from there. If it's like a list of all these answers, that's still part of the undoing, is like,
Yeah.
am I even creating space for myself to come through?
Right, right. And it's like it's letting go of that rigidness of like, do I actually want to go work out today? Like, is that really what my body wants? Or is there something else that might feel good? And it's expanding our idea of what working out needs to be, or just how we can tend and take care of our bodies,
Right.
which is why I think these like feminine spaces are really good for us to be able to get into that embodiment and see what else is possible. And like a practice that I have my clients do is breast massage in the morning. And I'm like,
Mhm.
this is your heart center. This is where we are giving love. Like spend time with yourself in the morning. And like you said, like it just takes it gives us this extra like sense of love. And then even when you move your body, you're creating that state of receptivity that then what we logically could thought we could think of or solve the solution. It's like, oh wait, it's always there. It's just I needed to get into the state of receiving and let go of looking for it and trying to find the answer and figure it out. It's like, what if we feel it out first?
Yes. And kind of to your point, when it comes to like the workout side of things and the embodiment, again, that's often something we do with the hope of an outcome.
Hmm.
And when it comes to attraction and magnetism and sensuality, that like 2 pounds you think you need to lose that you're looking at on the scale, or that like little bit that when you pinch, you wish it was a little different. Like, again, that is that rigid, linear masculine thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the moment that we drop in, what's interesting is when we do more of what feels good, we look good. We
Yeah.
look good from the inside out, and maybe not a lot changes like actually physically, but if you look at somebody that is like tracking their reps and they're writing everything down and they have this look on their face that I respect. Of course, I respect that, but it's so different from the person that is just like in their body, feeling their way through it. And that, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what it looks like to the outside world, is so magnetizing and something that it's like, wow, there's something so attractive about somebody that is so in their body that they're just like letting it do what it wants to do. And without some specific outcome in mind.
Right. Yeah. And we glow. We glow, from the inside out.
Yeah.
Maybe nothing has changed, but the way you feel changes. And so many women want to critique their bodies, but one, like, we think that men are like critiquing and judging us, but it's really just us doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
also, the more in flow we are with our energy and our emotions, a lot of women are carrying emotional weight. And it's like when we can feel that, we can release this, like all this holding on that we have, on our bodies that is keeping us safe.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just you become your most like natural state of being.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And in regards to your practice that you have with like breast massage in the
Hmm.
morning, also kind of like putting some music on that feels aligned in that moment, closing your eyes and like letting your body guide what you need. And maybe it's just like an intuitive yoga-esque or stretching practice.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't
Yeah.
always have to mean dancing at like you're at a rave, but it's so
Right.
crazy when again, yoga can feel so good and so connected. And we're
Hmm.
often being guided by someone. What if
Hmm.
you allow yourself to be the guide? And as you said, I'm the problem and
Yes.
the answer. I'm the problem and the
Yeah.
solution. You let yourself kind of figure out what you need. And what's so remarkable is in those moments, I've like gotten into some type of a stretch or like a posture or a position that I've never done in my entire life. It's released something that maybe energetically has been bound or held up there. And
Hmm.
it's such a beautiful expression of listening to what you need and then letting that move outward. And something again that it's like, even if it sounds crazy to anyone listening, just trying some of these things. Because if we want a different outcome or we want to elevate or be in that embodiment of the person that has everything that we desire, we may have to do things a little bit differently and just accept that it's
Hmm.
like something maybe hasn't been working. And these tiny little shifts, spending moments with ourselves in the morning, sensually, with pleasure for ourselves, not for anyone else, not to
Yeah.
perform, not for a partner, is so powerful.
Yes. Yes. And it's so incredibly simple that it almost I used to be this way. I used to be like, well, that'll never work for me. Like, and it's
Mhm.
like I'm still looking for the tried and true strategy outside of me when really it's like, no, like spend time with your body, babe. Just like be there, hug your body,
Yeah.
yeah, get into that intuitive flow, roll around, like do your yoga practice a little differently, intuitively guide yourself. And you just don't know what will happen until you can try to do it, try it on.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's so good. It's so, so
Yeah.
good. And it's so empowering to call the wisdom in and stop putting so much in the external world. And again, so much like pressure um and outcomes and all those things, but instead like recognizing that we hold everything we already need, and then the gift that gives to everyone else in our life, our future partners, whomever it may be, that they're not responsible for anything except for just to like add value and joy and playfulness and experience. But that, like, as you said, you can be in such a committed, incredible relationship and still say, if something happened, like I would still be okay. And
Hmm.
that only gives so much more room for that relationship to grow because there is not
Hmm.
constraints of pressure of like, you better make me happy X, Y, and Z around it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I forget who the author is, but there was a book and this is what changed my perspective on love. Like in late 2023, I saw this and it's like not only is love is a choice, that we are showing up for, to be in relationship to someone. But when we are truly loving someone, it's that we're loving them regardless if they're going to choose you or not. It's like we're always there for someone's growth. We're there for our own growth, that we're supporting who they are becoming because we're all about, who we are becoming. And so it's like unconditional love is I love you even if you don't like choose me, even if you need to go another way, that like I'm going to be okay. And that's when we truly know that we love ourselves, that we trust that, another love will come in because we are literally the embodiment of love. And so it has to be true.
Yes, and just really being intentional about giving ourselves some of that love first, even when we've been conditioned to, and it's
Mhm.
so easy to place it outward. But like the
Mhm.
more I've said it a million times, but I love the kind of saying that you have to make sure that your heart is a lighthouse, not a flashlight. So it fills
Mm.
you up first. And if it feels like every effort you make is to try to place those buckets of love elsewhere and pour them onto everyone around you and do all of those things, I mean, that ends up creating resentment that wouldn't have to be there if we did just pause throughout the day and like give ourselves some of that love back. And so all of your teachings are
Mhm.
so aligned with that in a way that I think is so needed right now in this world, when there is so many disconnects and so much lack of self-love and self-compassion. And so I love that. And I'd love for you to
Mhm.
share how people can work with you, where people can find you if they'd like to learn more or work directly with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of one-on-one work with women, and you can contact me through my social media accounts. Lauren Likes It Like That on both Instagram and TikTok. And then probably I'll have some fun containers coming up, in April or so. I really want to get a membership out there for
Yeah.
women to start joining because I'm just like, okay, so many women want to be surrounded with like-minded women who are, taking on the responsibility of like, okay, I'm putting myself first. I'm prioritizing myself. So more fun things will be coming on that. And then I also have a podcast called The Turned On Woman, which is where I love just to talk and talk about all these, themes that come up around, okay, how do we truly embody our feminine energy? How do we turn it on so we are in that alchemized state where we can be attracting love? So
Oh,
that's
yes.
where I
I
am.
love that. And I love that people can find more if they want to just kind of hear more in depth. Again, all of your kind of short form content is so digestible and easy to understand and relatable. But I also think there's so much saturation nowadays, and you can really feel if someone believes and embodies what they're saying versus just kind of
Mm,
trying to find the next like clickbait thing or viral thing. And so I resonated so deeply, even in just watching a couple of your videos, because you practice what you preach. You have really worked on embodying it first before trying to then, like, speak to the masses and teach everyone else kind of what you've learned.
mhm.
And so, yes,
Yes.
please check her out. I'll make sure that I link all of that in the show notes. And then I would love to hear what your personal version of Red Nail Energy is.
Yes. My personal version would have to be like being a turned on woman. It is about being so fully alive and like loving your life. My recent one of my recent TikTok videos was like, you are the cake, make your life so freaking delicious. And then the man becomes the cherry on top. And that's when you truly get to this point of releasing the resistance of, I got to this point where I was like, you know what? If I never find a man, I'm truly going to love my life regardless. And we have to get to that place of like, okay, this is the life that I'm creating for myself. And a man just gets to be the cherry on top. Like he's just an addition to it. He's not the main source of my joy and my happiness. And so really like turning yourself on every day, being fully alive, being in that place of like Delulu, but also romanticizing your life of just like, oh my gosh, like the world is my playground. That's what I've been practicing a lot lately is like the world is here for me to play. I'm not just like in the world, it's actually like my world. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
my
it's
version.
so good. And it's so, we often like say, I can have the cake or make the cake when I find the man. Like, I think that's the
Hmm.
thing is that if you do make yourself the cake, if you do the things that you want to do and you don't withhold or say like, well, I want to do that with a partner someday, and you're kind of like picking and choosing where you'll allow pleasure in your life, we end up just absolving ourselves of so much pleasure in the day to day that is actually the very thing that will attract all of the right people and situations into our life. And so
Yeah.
becoming the cake, I mean, snaps and cosign that so much. I love it. And then just lastly, is there anything kind of intuitive or on your heart that you would like to leave listeners with before we close?
I would just say that let your own change and embodiment be quick, fast, easy, and fun. Like I am a super logical woman. I came from being very masculine, being very, follow the rules and just know that it does take practice. Be gentle with yourself, but it can be quick, fast, easy, and fun. And so it's not like you have to go on this entire healing journey. But even if you do embark on that, like let it be fun, let it be playful and light and that you can absolutely, switch from being so in your head to actually allowing your body to lead and to trust that. And you will be so guided to everything that you want.
Yes. Oh, I love
Mhm.
that. Anything in life that we have permission to not make have to be so hard is something
Mhm.
that I will sign up for immediately because I think that we do have these societal beliefs that things have to feel hard or like it's not worth it if you didn't work so hard for it, but feminine energy just is. And I think that's the most
Mhm.
beautiful thing. And anyone listening, like you already have it within you, and it's a matter of unlocking and allowing and maybe releasing. And sometimes the releasing can feel a little sticky or a little difficult to trudge through, but there is just so much ease and beauty on the other side of it. And I appreciate you so
Mhm.
much for being such a shining light and somebody that
Mhm.
makes those things feel fun and easy and playful because
Mhm.
we definitely need more of that. So
Yes. Yay. Thank you for
wonderful,
having me.
amazing. Yes. And as always, listeners, you are so loved and never alone. Go out into the world and make it your cake or be the damn cake. And we will catch you on the next episode.